finish the Ri Saruk, there were a few things that I would just kind of pick and choose, little ideas that were coming out of here. When he's really describing, he's really describing many things over here. In the third line, he has a phrase that is tzarach iyun for me. He said mifnei shehem moser aguf. Now he said moser aguf. I said it's overflow, or it's something like that. He says, "V'kol moser aguf is din." Why is it din? Mifnei shehu me'or choser. So he said it's moser aguf. In other words, it's really outside of the body. But anything that comes outside of the body has a din of or choser. Now, the question is, so what does he mean by that? First thing that I think about is or choser is din. So the left side, which we may be talking about or not, he says the left side is or choser, even though that the light itself is going downwards because the beard is progressing downwards. But what's inside of it, he says, is or choser. It says that's the nature of din. So I just thought that I don't really have a good explanation other than that for what he means by this. And if I saw it previously, I'm not sure. So then he starts to telling the story about how the Chasadim come in. We should assume that there's Mayim Nukvin that's bringing the Chasadim in. And they're finding that we have the sweetening of the Gevuros that are already in the Yesod, and he said that the Gevuros, which is a little pelodic for me, the Gevuros stop there. They can't get out. And as a result of that, the Chasadim sweeten. They sweeten 3 of them. So the 3 of them that get sweetened are eventually going to bounce off the floor of the Yesod, of Zeranpin, and they're gonna bounce back up. As perhaps Rasav is that you have 3 and 2. So the 3 which are sweetened dinim are going to go up to they're going to make the hair on top of the head, the long smooth hairs. They're made out of the greater abundance of light. He said, whatever. I'm not sure exactly how that fit in. And then he said they couldn't find a way out, so then they went like that. And then if you take the 3 that makes the hair of the head, and then you have the 2 which are not sweetened, they're going to make the beard. So the tougher part of the whole thing is going to be the beard. So coming down over this, so then he has actually a slight disclaimer. He says, well, it's really not 3 and 2. It's really 2.5 and 2.5. That's what it sounds like to me. He says that half of one of the ones of the 3 that were sweetened really is not completely and totally sweetened, and it joins in with the other side, with the hairs that are going to make the beard. And those other, that half, that's interesting. There's 2 versus 1/2. So in relationship to the beard, this part, the half, is going to be the long hairs, which are going to be the mazlos in this particular case, and the other 2 are going to remain as straightforward, the dinim. So what he wants to say is to get down to the idea that what happens is that this part, which is the heavy-duty dinim, which is our 9th tikkun, is part of the process, I think, of what he wants to say, of the 9th tikkun. And it's layered in between the 8th and the 13th tikkun in such a way that it can't get out because it's very destructive. It's complete and total din. Now, that's all. There's a big mystery around the whole story of whatever it's talking about. So let's come down to where we actually stopped yesterday. That's a little bit of that story. There's seems to me there are lots of important things in there. We came to this place. We're on the line. The last 2 words on the line are Va'ata Navo. Now we should come to the Ferish Sifra Tzniuta. The Ka'amar Ina D'Italian no Nafking Dom Badon. Now he's concerned about this phrase that it sounds like they don't get tangled amongst each other. That's what it sounds like, something like that. He says, Ina D'Italian no Nafking Dom Badon. He said, V'tamis. So it's this question, the Meloshan Sifra Tzniuta. Ein nira shahasa'aros hakatanos misarvim in hagadolos. They don't actually mix into the gadolos. Ela other rabba ka'ombachem be'inan detalion lo nafkin. He says those that are hanging down, they don't go out. Now, exactly what does that mean? Ella the Hiyosh Sifra Ditzniuta, who Mishnah Katsara, it's previous, it's brief. V'hu klal, and so therefore the idea here is a general approach. Let's say a klal. V'achar kach idra rabba mefarad, and then the idra rabba comes along and it specifies it more clearly. So I guess that's what he wants to say. And what does that mean? What we just said, the klal l'prat. He said bepirish she'iker hamituk. Let me see. I got marks all over my page, so let me. So he says she'ikar mitok shel elo havechasaros katsaros hu. So the main sweetening. How do you sweeten up this really, let's call it violent, destructive dinim that are part of the gevuros that are in the yesod of Zeranpin, and bouncing back? So how can you handle them? The hiyosha hasaros haruchos lo nafki dom minda is because of this phrase. The phrase is that the long hairs don't come out, I guess they don't intermix, they don't tangle. So Pirush, so he explains this. He says, Kesha hasa'aros aktsaros omdim l'tzeis l'chutz. Now these little, they want to get out. In other words, they want to be mashpia, which is what? Destruction. He says, Osem hagadolos, so those hairs which are the big ones, the long ones, they don't give them a place to get out because one doesn't come out from the other. That's what he's saying is that the hairs, the small hairs that we've been describing, can't get out. So therefore, when we're talking about the ikr of this root, really has to do with the two long hairs. And their function is that they don't let the other ones get out. That is the real nasty dinim. Now I have a proof to that. He says in the Idra Rabbah, when he's explaining the details of this tikkun, so he says that they mix up those with those that are hanging, mean the longer ones, I guess, below nafki da, and they don't separate. In other words, they can't, or that means that they can't get out. Kolom Teda, Malku HaTikkun is that. So what, let's say, what is the ninth tikkun? He said, well, I'll tell you what the ninth tikkun is. So who sha'amach the Sifra to the what the Sifra says, the Peruta says that this is the Inun, the Talia, no nafkin da. They don't let the little ones get out. Kolomer, mifnei sheyesh sa'aras acherim ketanim, shemis arbim bomb that are mixed in with these big ones, with these long ones. Ve'eno chavanichin, osam l'tzeis, they don't let them go out, miftei v'lo nafki dom b'dom, because it's closed. They're covering it over, which is a sweetening for that ninth tikkun, because they are more sweetened. They are based out of the one half, which was already partially sweetened. Thomas, if you say, now let's go back over there. Shema be'idra. So what there said, the lo nafkin da medah, so that the hairs here are all mixed up with those that are hanging down longer, are the big ones. That's impossible. Now let me go back over this again. He says, this is a little tricky here. He says because actually this was in the introduction, the same idea. They brought this idea over there, but it appears here. The member, he should have said, if you're talking about the hairs, the little hairs, and they can't get out, the lashon should have been in the plural. He said the lo nafkin din min din, which should have said, if the ninth tikkun is the fact that they can't get out, I think something that they don't intersperse. If we're talking about the hairs themselves, b'lush and rabin, that would be plural. But it doesn't say that. It says in the singular. So it's coming back to the hairs that are hanging, they themselves, he says. He says, Atman, v'tishkach. So I think he's talking about Adkan Lashon Ri Saruk. Now that last part is a little bit hard to hear. So I think that what he was saying is that we're not talking about the hairs. We're really talking about the fact that they can't get out. That's the tikkun. V'rei gam mashin is boy kan l'cholon b'shem Ri Saruk. We have some more coming on that. See it again. Okay, let me see. Actually, where we're on the bottom of page Taf Resh Mem Vav Mem Zayin. I don't know. Mem Zayin. Okay, so my glasses are a lot better, but you know when they fix your glass frames, they don't charge you, and I can't keep going back. It's very, very close to working for me, but I have these what do you call it? These adjustable lenses. I forget what you call it. It's a three-way lens, but you can't tell necessarily. Anyway, they're a little tricky. Let's go on to the next one. He says on Taf Resh Mem Zayin. He says, we're still working on that idea. And it seems to be that Ri Saruk wants to say that it's layered in between. The ninth tikkun is the short hairs are layered in between the two. There's a lot of explanations for this, and they're like this. He says, so he said, Bir Rishon, the first explanation. Let me get it on here. Here we go. The first beer is Boyer beer Meshula B'Pi Rizal Al Pi HaKol Barama V'Firush Rishon, according to his first explanation. The Hagam the Isa Be'idra Rabba Shesa'aras HaKatana Meshachel B'Tika the Teshichim Mis Arvim Im Sa'aras Ashnei Maslo, so they get mixed up in them. That's the Lashon. Im Kol Zecha Be'enim Mis Arvim Mamish, they don't actually mix in with them. Elohim Nevloim, they're actually swallowed up or buried inside of them. In the middle of the two mazals. There's a little note on this. That's what it means, going back to that idea, that's what it means when they say that they can't get out. They don't go out one from the other. They don't broaden out. And they don't enter into the place of the Saras Aruchim. They go straight down just like the others. Now this is the part I think he got it in black print. He says okay, that wasn't the one I thought. So let's look over here. We have this note here on number Kof Tes. And then let's see, we still have a couple of minutes. What time did we finish today? 21? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so, V'chein, Rei, Baruch David. So look over in the Ruach David, he says. B'shem Barizal, the Misarvim Pirish. What does Misarvim mean? Pirish Sa'arav Tikkun Zeh. Mis Arvim im Inans Arid Italian. So they mix in with the others. The Haino im Atrin Muslim, which is Tikkun Ches and Tikkun Yud Gimel. Ve'ina Kavana Shemis Arvim Mamish. So we're not saying that it really actually mixes in with them. El Shehem Be'em Som, but they're actually in the middle between the two, Be'bein Mazel L'Mazel. Ve'hem Yoser Ketzarna Mis Aras Amazels, and they're shorter than the other ones. So we explain that, explain in regards to the eighth tikkun. Because the upper mazel, I guess number 8, really goes across the width of the beard. By the side of the, I guess he means of the empty space. So Hanira Lono, that he says the way it appears to us. Mazel the Tachton, the lower mazel, that's a tikkun number Yud Gimel. Mekaben Mekenege, let's say, let's list out the Kenegdo, Lamata, and it is directed opposite it, going downwards, I guess means parallel to it. Below Tikkun Zeh, with Nivlo Tikkun Zeh, and in the between the two of them, it's swallowed up. And we kind of heard this already. They mix. Pirush Shasari Tikkun Ches, and Tikkun Tes rather. Hem be'emsa elu hashnei mazlos al teluyim ad tibura ad shishkamat misarvim be'elu habes minim shal seir shall habes tikkunim al teluyim shehin tikkun ches and tikkun yud gimel, which is really stating, I think, a little bit of what we heard before. Now, there's a little bit more because we have the Ri Saruk here coming back again. Here's what it says in number basis. The second explanation, Bir Sheni Rei V'Firish Ri Saruk, which we looked at in detail, the Koi al Sa'aros Aruchim Atzman, is really talking about the long hairs themselves. The Lo Nafki Dom and Dom means what? They don't go out one for the other. What does that mean? Kolomash al Sa'aros Aruchim Musudarim Ba'oven Shelo Yuchlu HaSa'aros HaKatana that says the Chutz. Ray B'Ha'aros Khan, here's a little ha'ara on this. I'll pick this up, and then we'll go over to, God willing, the next piece. He's looking at B'Divim Ri Saruk Khan, Huver B'Ha'aros La'el, he says what? V'ya'ayin Sham Masha Nogea L'Khan, so he says, I already talked about it a great deal. V'Rei B'Siyam L'Varov Sham. Now, let's go over there. Sholo, he says there's something misleading over there, Sham. Derek Bir Harishon, the way that he first explained it. Vizel Lashono. V'im Tomer Shemasha Ambacha Be'idra, where it says in the Idra, Rabbi L'Dol Nafking Dom B'Dah, Hainus Aras Amuravim Ma'osam Ataluyim, those are hairs that are mixed in with those that are hanging down. Hainus Aras Akatsaros Amuravim, that were all mixed in there. No Nafki Chutz Misaras V'Aruchim Ataluyim, they never extend outwards or beyond them. They're trapped inside of them. But that really understands it's not possible. That could be right. What he should have said, the no dafkin din min din. He's back into this very end of the last Ri Saruk, which didn't make a lot of sense. So he says, after the havale, it should have said, if you're talking about what the hairs are doing, the lo nafkin din min din, it should have been the hairs, which is plural, going out from the other hairs, which are also plural, Mulash and Rabin. The Hanishas Aros Aktsaros Enim Yotzim is Aros Aruchim. So that's you're thinking that's what he's telling you. But since it's in the singular, now let's see if I can understand it. He says Choser, it goes back on Sareh Detalion, on the hairs that are hanging down. The Haruchos, those are the long ones, Atzman. Shein Yotze Seir Echad Mechaveru, that we're talking about them, that what they don't mix into each other, that is the 8th and the 13th don't mix, V'dok, V'tishkach, so if you look into it, that's really what he's talking about. Okay, so I'm not sure that I got it all, but with God's help, we'll see some more about it. Oh, wait a minute, there is a little bit more. There's a little teeny weeny bit more. Because he's going to get into it later. She says, so I don't know what Ravavim means. It means it means the big ones, I think. What does that mean? That language goes on the 11th tikkun. That's what it says over there. Yachad Chad Sar, that's 11. The lo nafke minima, that you between these they all stay straight. So this tikkun is bevur. We're talking about the long ones, right? Those are the ones that grow out of the one half, which is partially sweetened. Tikkun test, that's what we're talking about here. Shehema mutachos katsaros, which are the sweetened ones that are the short ones that are sweetened. I'm not quite sure where he's going here. Einam yotzim nima menima. So again, he says the 9th tikkun, shehem amutakim katsaros, the little ones that are a little bit sweetened. I don't know what this means. Einam yotzim nima menima pirush sherosha hasaros she'ein ma'ash mat kashim. So he says the tips of the hairs, which are a little bit hard. Hey mafridim atzman beseder shalom. They are completely, I think he means completely and totally separated. Mafridim atzman, they separate themselves beseder shalom in a proper order. Kadei shelo l'seis koach l'shum baal din, so that he shouldn't give any koach to any baal din. Now, exactly how this lashon is going, he says that he yoslo pischun peh, that it could open up its mouth, so to speak, the kabel to receive mishum echad bechem ha'ara, so that I'm not sure. I'll read again. Lezeh omer kishiur b'shiur shalim. Let me just read it again. He say enim yotzim nima minima. What does that mean? One strand of hair does not cross over the other another strand of hair. Shirosha hasa'ara shehem amad kasha. So they're a little bit hard. Hein mafridim atzman b'seder shalom. They completely and totally, and he used the word seder, in an order that is complete. They don't mix in. Kadei shelo l'seis koach l'shum baal din, and this is a kind of a metaphor. It's because we're talking about the hairs that are really pure dinim. He said b'baal din l'hiyoslo pischo pal, that he could be able to make a complaint. The kabel, and I don't know what the kabel means, a pischol and pal, the kabel, b'shun echad bechem ha'ara, that it's not going to receive anything from anything else. The zecha v'omer shebes'aros b'shiur shalim ad kan. That takes a little bit more eon for me to understand that, and so Mitzvah Shem will get it the next